everyone. Easy Equities, as you know, is no longer a startup. It's 10 years old this year. It's just released interims, or at least Purple Group has, which show a dramatic swing back to profits on a jump of almost 30% in revenue. And Charles Savage, Easy and Purple Group CEO, joins me now. Charles, I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, but it's quite a thing being about to put a decade behind you when statistically only 9% of startups actually survive 10 years, which is a horrifying stat. How did you get here?
Yeah, Giulietta, I've been reflecting on this, I guess, almost since we turned 9. I also went and looked at the statistics, and mine concur with yours. It feels like it was just yesterday on the one side. It really does feel like the decade's just, where did it all go? And I guess actually, in answer to your question, how did we get here? We got here because a community fell in love with us right from day one. And when I say in love with us, I mean in love with our purpose and what we were trying to do. And it resonated with the South African investor community, or those who wanted to invest rather than the investment community. And because they fell in love with us so early, they took it upon themselves to be part of that cause and sort of wore the Easy badge and helped us grow the business. And that was across all segments of society. So, from young, old, rich, poor, across all demographics. And in the result, we've got a platform that I'm so proud to say is truly South African. Not only was it, built and delivered here, but it serves the customer demographics of South Africa perfectly. 42% female, 58% male. So we can do a little bit better there, but young Black South Africans. And so it is a reflection of the demographic fabric of South Africa. And we also got here because not only did our customers fall in love with it, but our partners did. The media fell in love with us, and we got lots more media coverage than what we deserved. We won partnerships that we didn't deserve. Satrix was the first. 1 year in, Satrix pitched up and said, "Can we have your platform?" And then Sanlam bought a meaningful stake about 2 years later. And then that was followed by Bidvest, and then Capitec, and then more recently Discovery, and then in the Philippines Gcash. And so fundamentally, the South African community fell in love with what we were trying to do and partnered us on that journey. And so we got a disproportionate share of I guess, of voice for a company that was, really, really nothing, just a really cool idea or naive idea with a strong purpose 10 years ago.
Charles, you say the media fell in love with you. I disagree with you there. I think the media was quite skeptical. And I remember when you started and people thought this is not going to work, fractional ownership is not going to work, or it's never going to amount to much. But you've now got 945,000 active users almost. Did you actually think, though, that was possible, given, and I think you said it in an interview with Ryk van Niekerk from MoneyWeb a couple of years ago, that when you launched, there were only 280,000 active retail users registered on the JSE's BDA system. How do you square off these numbers?
Yeah, I'd love to say we had all this foresight and we'd planned to be as big as we are today. But, what we knew very early is that our purpose resonated with a lot of people and got them excited and engaged about the possibility of investing. And I'll never forget it. When I shared the idea for the first time with someone who wasn't like me, they were more excited than I was. And then I shared the idea with someone else, and again, they kept getting more excited about what this platform could be than I was. And so I always believed it was much bigger than our greatest expectations. But one thing that I've learned from reading too many books about startups and the like is that you can't predict exponential. And so we didn't try and predict where we'd end up. What we did try and do is ensure that we always played the cards as they were dealt. And so that we always pivoted and delivered the business strategy in a very agile, fluid way that took cognizance of what we were learning from our customers as they arrived or departed. So if they didn't like what they saw. Yeah. But also importantly, that was considerate of the economic environment that we found ourselves in. And so we definitely didn't predict it to be this big, but you're right, 280,000 shareholders on the JSE, investors on the JSE when we started. And to think that we've kind of quadrupled that, because those weren't active, those were account holders, and there's probably quite a lot of dead people in that. But to get to that million mark, we're almost there. We'll certainly be there before our birthday. But to get to that million mark still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. It fundamentally is going to change the financial fabric of this country in the decades ahead. That's the thing that really gets me excited about it. And whilst I know you noted that the media has been kind of bipolar about their support, but we always got a disproportionate share of voice, which I really appreciated. Whether they didn't disagreed or agreed with us, we definitely got a disproportionate share of voice when you consider how little we are. I mean, I can't think of a small cap listed on the JSE who gets as much attention as Purple Group today from the media. And so I'm very grateful for the media's interest.
Charles, going to one of the features in the results, and then maybe we'll go back to how you actually build a base this big, because it's not a series of perfectly planned steps. But one of the features in the results is the dramatic increase in revenue that you got from the introduction of the Thrive fee. So you got 25 million Rand in this first half. Two of the other factors behind the growth in revenue was the Rise business, which is a retirement platform, and also crypto. There was big growth there. So ostensibly, you introduced this to encourage more activity on the platform, but it was almost a visceral sense of betrayal among some of the users that you'd either gone back on your word to never charge a platform fee, or that you should have actually just said, guys, it's time that we charge a platform fee. It's lower than everyone else's still, but we need it to make the business sustainable. And I wonder if you've lost some of the love and the trust of the community. And you talk about how important the community was in growing Easy Equities, and whether that was, if not a fiscal misstep, it clearly wasn't, whether it was sort of a real emotional misstep.
Yeah. It's firstly, Thrive's only been around 6 months. So, one summer, one swallow doesn't make a summer. So I don't want to put too much emphasis on it just yet. But let's talk about what we've seen in the 6 months, and highlight its success or failures through the data. So what you've highlighted is the economic impact, which is clearly successful. Now, but when you consider that economic impact, though, you're essentially saying that on average, every customer paid 25 Rand in a 6-month period to February. Okay. And when you consider that as a cost to 1 million customers, that's kind of, what is it? It's 4 Rand a month for the platform experience that they've paid. And so it's made a significant impact on the business, but not a significant impact on the customer in terms of their economics. And why is that? And there are a couple of reasons. One is there are huge areas of our customer base that are exempt. So if you're under the age of 21, you're not included. So, get started, get invested, and don't charge, and start to learn. And then once you've achieved all of your investment objectives, and let's just say in retirement, you're excluded as well. So those are two very large portions of our customer base that are excluded. And then for the balance of us, adults, young adults, hopefully still, from 22 to 65, Thrive was developed to encourage the right investor behavior. And fundamentally, I was targeting two things. One is I wanted to be front of mind once a month with my investors. I want you to think about me negatively or positively once a month, and then take action. And that, if you thought about me once a month, your action could be, one, I could pitch up the platform and do some stuff, which doesn't cost me any money, cost me my time, and I would avoid having to pay Thrive. And one of those things is education. And we've served, I looked at the other day on Monday last week, we served 5,000 educational courses to customers in one day. And you just think about the compounding effects of that kind of education. And that was the one, so you could go and earn your Thrive, your ability to avoid fees by virtue of educating yourself. So, you benefit for yourself. Or alternatively, you could choose to pay the fee because you valued the platform. And in the result, this customer base is choosing what is most valuable to them. So is there time do they want to invest in themselves and educate themselves and avoid, by doing so, avoid the fees? And about 50% of the customers are doing that. And then the other 50% of customers are going, that qualify, that are not exempt, are going, this is a platform that we value and that is worth paying for. And so in the balance, what we've seen, and the real test is, what has activity done since we've launched Thrive? And so we had a declining deposit and number of depositors rate from November 2021, which was the first time interest rates went up, 28 months ago. Our number of depositors and the deposit value declined month on month all the way into October when we launched Thrive. Since we've launched Thrive, that has recovered by over 25%. So we have increased depositors and deposit value by 25% since introducing Thrive. And there has been no change in the macro environment, i.e. interest rates haven't gone down, and there haven't been, inflation hasn't abated. And so the only thing we can give credit for, well, not the only thing, there are lots of other things that we're doing to try and stimulate that, but Thrive was the biggest thing that we did to stimulate positive investor behavior. And it's already, in a very short period, 6 month period, it's moved the needle by 25%, which saw us, to really put this in perspective and context, saw us in February deliver a record deposit month ever. So we broke, and that record is over 2 years old now. I think it was set in March 2021. In fact, I know it was set in March 2021. So we delivered a record in very tough economic times and as a result of engaging our investors to get ourselves and to ensure that we were front of mind, and therefore and in the hope that it would drive them to activity, and it's worked. And so, have we betrayed customers? No, we haven't. You can earn your free platform as it was before, and a whole lot of other benefits by just investing some of your time, or alternatively, you can choose as an investor to say, this is a platform that I value, that contributes economically to my wealth creation and my journey, and I'm happy to pay 25 Rand. So it's been a very positive introduction. The other thing, which I just want to highlight one more data point, because the first one was engineered, if you like. We developed Thrive to be front of mind so that people would start depositing at a higher rate. That was strategic. What we didn't strategically think about, or didn't engineer or predict, is because it created this. It was like a Twitter storm, and I'm not sure that Twitter storms are storms anymore. Quite frankly, they just seem to be people who've got more to do with their time than anything else. But there was this kind of Twitter storm, and there was a media storm. I think we were front page of every newspaper in October in the country. But the storm was about fees, about our fees. You can't talk about fees in the context of an industry and just talk about ours. You have to talk about everyone's fees. And so the dialogue shifted to, okay, cool. So Easy Equities is introducing this loyalty platform fee. What do we pay on other platforms? And perhaps the most interesting thing is that prior to Thrive, essentially for every customer we won from competitors, for every customer we lost to competitors, we would win about 1.5 to 2 customers. So we had a net inflow of customers. We're beating the competition up. Post Thrive, because that's a good measure. Are we still beating the competitors up, or have they beaten us? Post Thrive, that ratio has gone to 1 to 4. So for every customer we lose now, we gain 4 customers. And the most interesting part of that is we're winning them from the platforms that try to shout the loudest about our fees. And so people became very educated around, because we changed our fee structure, they became very educated around the entire industry's fee structures, and they came to the realization that ours are by far best in class. And not only that, they can be avoided. And there are a host of other benefits that come with Thrive that can give you even lower fees. So, as an example, this month, I did our crypto course. Our crypto course is are available on our academy. It allows you to earn a Thrive level 10. It literally takes 15 minutes to do. It's a great piece of education if anyone's interested in crypto. And level 10 means I get 100% off brokerage on the Thrive stocks next month. And so my platform's going to be much cheaper for me next month. So I think it's been a great example of a brave decision to react to the cards that were dealt with us, economic environment that was dissuading people from to invest, that was putting us at the back of their minds because other things were front of minds, paying school fees, paying rent, and creating a program that said, look, don't forget about us. Just think about us for 1 or 2 minutes a month and pitch up.
Charles, I mean, the business started with one product, or I think you called them wallets. I suppose I've never sort of, where are you now? And is this, is you know what you've done now with Thrive and Rise, and you've introduced Easy Protect and credit. Are these absolutely necessary to continue growing the business and also to make the existing business sustainable?
Yeah, there are kind of 2 or 3 levers for growth. The first one, which we mustn't lose sight of, is that there's still millions and millions of South Africans out there that we need to go and find and acquire. 1 million is what is that of our population? I think it's about 2%, something like that. So 2% of the population is pitched up. We think the primary target audience is the tax-paying base of South Africa, and so that's about 7 million people. And so the one growth is one aspect is let's go and find the other 6 million who haven't pitched up, and we will do that with much more attention in better economic times. We realize that marketing an investment platform when people are struggling to pay for all the other expenses is not necessarily the right thing to do. So that's the one lever for growth, and we'll continue to run along those rails and forge partnerships and marketing campaigns that deliver us to those additional customers. But the second one is what you highlight, is that as you acquire more and more customers, the opportunity to deliver products and services into that customer base at the lowest possible cost. I don't have to go and acquire one more customer. I can deliver a product at 0 cost, literally, to 1 million customers, means that we can uplift revenue by attaching you to more products and services and drive our economic future through that. And right from the start, while we were a single wallet business, it was our best attack. It was the wallet that we felt had the highest propensity for customers to consume South African stocks, because it's what they knew. The intention was always that we would pave a road, create an ecosystem or a platform that allowed our customers to do 2 things. One is enable wealth, and 2 is protect wealth. And that is a very broad highway of products and services. And so you're starting to see us now enter the protect wealth. So our first product, Easy Protect, which is a life insurance built for investors. But on the wealth side, we've gone from just South African shares to US shares, Australian shares, European shares, UK shares. We've got an advisory business, a digital advisory business. We've got a retirements and savings business in Rise. We've got a crypto business, an Easy Properties business. And so all of these products and services fundamentally create a financial ecosystem that, in the result, when it's I don't think it'll ever be finished, but in the result, allow customers to fulfill their wealth and wealth protection needs in one place.
Are these initiatives or developments that much more acutely needed when you're in a bear market, which it feels like South Africa has been in for forever? It hasn't, but it feels like that. Because I imagine in a bull market, it's kind of everyone's, animal spirits are up. If inflation is down, you've got more money. If interest rates are down, you've got more money. It's kind of easy to make more money in a bull market. So do you have to do these things in a market such as ours? Or would you do them?
You would definitely do them anyway. But the driver is that you want a business that in the outcome is resilient regardless of the economic conditions, so that you've got products and services that will work better at different times in the cycle. So a great example is Easy Credit, which we launched last year. When we decided to build Easy Credit, interest rates were half where they are. And so selling credit in that environment, responsible credit, in a low interest rate environment, is an appropriate product. Will do very well in low interest rates. it took us 2 years to launch, and 2 years later, interest rates are double what they were when we decided to. And so it's a really cuck product to sell in a high rate interest rate environment, because you're going to borrow at a rate that is higher than potentially the return that you're going to generate from, from that lending. And so it's a good example of you want that in your armory for when economic cycle shifts on interest rates, but it's not always going to be useful to you. And if you think about investing in equities, equities are bull market products. And bull markets, fortunately, are typically 7 out of every 10 years. But if you want to build a resilient business, you need to have different weapons for different parts of the cycle. And that's what we've done. So that's the main reason why we've done it. But the other reason is that it talks to what I was saying earlier, is that we want to create this one-stop ecosystem to fulfill your financial lives. Because, and this is really just personal, prior to Easy Equities, my investment wealth sat somewhere, my wealth protection sat somewhere else, my estate planning and advice sat somewhere else. Some of it I did for myself and others were managed. Some of it was located in South Africa, other parts of it all around the world. And for me to reconcile all of that never happened. I just could never find the time or inclination to do it. And now everything I own, all of my assets, all of my liabilities, everything sit in a single place. And it just makes my life so much easier. But it allows me to check in, and it also allows me to take action because it's so well summarized and so easily accessible. And so that's the other reason to do it, is to make our customers' financial lives much easier. And the insight we've got from making it easier is, if you make it easier, they will do more. If you make it complex, they do less. And so we constantly striving to simplify our customers' financial lives so that they can do more and not waste their time trying to kind of reconcile everything.
And how do you know this? Is it from customer feedback? Because you have a very engaged base. I mean, you saw that with the Thrive example. And is this how actually you build a sustainable business? That you don't always launch the perfect product. It can be an imperfect thing, but then you use your customer experience of it to make it better. I mean, I suppose that's the ideal. Has that been your experience of 10 years?
It's, I wish I was 25 with some of these lessons and not 50. But, for the better part of my career, I built products sitting in boardrooms with people who didn't need them. And with Easy Equities, we fundamentally changed that. We built this product for taking direct feedback back from the people who needed them. And that was their insight that the financial services system was too complex, too sophisticated for them, and hence why Easy Equities was born. And so we've kept that ethos and mantra in everything we do. We do not sit in boardrooms and decide what products we should build. We listen to our customers. So we do surveys all the time. We monitor their user behavior, and we reflect on that user behavior and then ask them questions about that behavior and then decide what we're going to do. So I want to use the best example of what our customers have built, which we would love to claim is our innovation. But fractional shares is, I would say, arguably the greatest innovation of the last decade in terms of investment services. Look what it's done in this country, but globally, every single investment platform now is fractional shares. We were the first in the world to digitize it. But did we invent it? No. How did we discover it? When our customers started using Easy Equities in a game environment, we realized that with small amounts of capital, they couldn't buy NASPAS, but they wanted to. It wasn't because they didn't want to buy NASPAS, it's because they couldn't afford to. And we just said, well, how do we solve that problem? Because if we don't allow them to buy NASPAS, then they're not going to buy something else they don't want to buy. They want to buy NASPAS, buy NASPAS. You can't convince them to buy ShopRite or something else. And so by fundamentally understanding that, we said, okay, well, we have to solve that. How do we solve that? And then we came up with a strategy to solve it with fractional shares. But we would never, ever have had that foresight had we not stayed attentive to what our customers' needs and wants were, and not paying it lip service. It's okay, they don't need NASPAS. And so that's how we've built the business, and that's how we continue to build it. And that doesn't always mean, especially when you've got a community as diverse as ours. And again, Thrive is probably the best example of this, because when you've got a community that's as diversified, that represents the financial fabric or the fabric of this country, you can't please everyone all the time. You know, you have to play in the percentages. You have to look and say, well, we're designing this to solve this problem, and this is our best attack weapon on this problem. And in recognizing that when you deliver that, you're going to realize that at least 20 to 30% don't have that problem and are therefore not going to value your solution and might shout loudly about it. I.e., if you look at Thrive, people who were behaving well prior to Thrive would have gone, this is ridiculous. I don't need this. I don't need a silly behavioral system, loyalty system to get me to do the right things. I do the right things. Congratulations. It doesn't penalize you. But there are a huge swathe of South Africans that do require a system that helps them manage their investment behavior, and hence Thrive gets introduced. So you can't satisfy everyone, but you have to listen to the data and then design the best tools to solve the problems that you see emerging from the data.
Yeah, if you're holding out for universal popularity, it's going to be a very long wait. Charles, going back to who the Easy users are and how it fits into the economics of Easy and Purple, are they still, small players, small accounts? I mean, I think the average, as you said a couple of years ago, the average was 30,000 Rand per account. I don't know what that's like now. Or are you getting big guns, people with large portfolios that they would have had, and are you trying to get those big guns?
Yeah, I'm smiling because it's the insight. So when we designed Easy, we designed it for a young customer cohort. There's no doubt about it. And when I say young, when I think about young, I don't think about age. I think about mindset. I'm 50. Excuse the words, but I'm 50, but in my head, probably still in my maybe early 30s. So we designed it for a young mindset, people who wanted simplicity, who wanted fintech, who wanted ease of use, and not necessarily young in terms of age. We found that it appealed to a much broader mindset. And so whilst we thought that these attributes of what we thought young would want were exclusive to young, they actually appeal to a much broader demographic. And so, I'd say this, I don't think there's a billionaire in this country whose kids are not on the platform, and they're not kids, they're adults. And I don't think I would struggle if someone said to me there's a billionaire in this country who doesn't know that we exist or have a portion of their assets even with us. And so we've won everyone. There are, and I don't want to give up numbers, but there are people who have extraordinary wealth in this country that are very well known to everyone that are on our platform, and their kids and their grandchildren and everyone in between as well. So it's a platform that appeals to people who want simplicity, ease of use, low cost, frictionless investing. And are tired of the opposite, complexity, high cost, friction. And so it's just, the platform has ended up being much more appealing than it was. The other thing that is, and this is something I struggle to articulate well, so forgive me if I stumble a bit, but being 10 means there are a couple of really interesting things emerging in the data. But we acquired 80% of our customers in the last 5 years, not the first 5 years, which is normal. These things, exponential curves, look. But when you consider that, when we acquired those customers, on average, if we take the 10 years, on average, we acquired those customers 5 years ago, right? Yeah. And they were 31 then on average. Now, the entire customer base of our population of our customer base is still 31. I think it's 32 now, 1 year older. But let's just talk about the customers that we acquired over the last 10 years, who on average would have been 31 5 years ago. They're now 36. And what we have seen is that they are exponentially more economically active than we could ever have predicted. Why? Because they're at the fastest growing curve of their own income statement. If you think about people's career, your acceleration in your career is from 30 to 45. Possibly the fastest part of that is kind of 35 to 45. And our biggest customer base that we acquired, those that we acquired in the last 5 years, are now entering the stage of their lives where their income statement is accelerating exponentially, not at inflationary rates, and these are the future. These are the future. This is the future wealth of this country, and it's emerging now because suddenly they're 36. And so a customer who we may have ruled young and economically not inactive, but economically light, today we look at that same customer that we looked at 5 years ago and go, geez, they've kind of 5x themselves in the last year in terms of the economic activity on the platform. So, and again, trying to draw references to business that have done this before, started with a young customer, a young high value customer cohort that then turned into a high value customer cohort over time. And I guess the best example of that in my mind must be Investec. Investec chased students around for credit cards when they left university, and today is one of the top 3 private banks in this country, if not the top private bank. And fundamentally, I think they survive, I don't know the exact numbers, but they survive on about 60 to 80,000 private bank customers. Well, we've got 1 million. And so we're going to be exponentially bigger than Investec in the years ahead. This customer cohort is just starting to mature, to become economically active. And so our job to protect that value, that future value, is to make sure we retain them. We deliver the products and services that they demand, expect, and deserve.
Charles, does that imply big expenses ahead for Easy Equities and Purple Group as a whole? I mean, the expenses in terms of your results were actually fractionally lower. Well, you could say they're flat. Would you be able to sustain that? And where are those main expenses?
Yeah, I mean, employment costs and then development costs, which essentially are also employment because we developed most of our software ourselves. Those are your 2 big areas of spend for us. And then the third one would be marketing. And marketing, obviously, much easier to turn on and off depending on the economic cycle. But, to talk about costs, we ramped up our cost base to deliver on the customers that arrived in the last 5 years. We never predicted or had foresight into COVID. We never predicted or had foresight into the growth that we got out of COVID. And we played catch up. And so the expense base of the group obviously increased quite a lot over the last 5 years. When you stack up the expenses in the income statement, it looked like a big increase. But when you look at it through the lens of cost per customer, it actually came down every single year. So it was economically frugal cost increases. This last year on year, we managed to reduce costs slightly. But in a tough economic environment, we took some very tough decisions. So, as one, we didn't give any increases to staff over the last 12 months. So our employment costs, we said to staff, we've had a good run, and and you've all done economically very well by being alongside the business, but we need to dig in over the next 12 months. And so this time last year, we didn't give increases to staff across the board from top to bottom. And that saved us 6 or 7% in our income statement in terms of employment cost. Can we do that again? No, we can't. That was we asked for it from our staff. Some left and some stayed, but fundamentally, those who dug in will be rewarded from it through profitability and bonuses in the year ahead. So we won't be able to contain all of the costs, but until such time as we see blue sky, and these results, as good as they are, and they are a great set of results. I'm very proud of them in a very tough economic time. My view is they will be the worst set of results we'll publish over the next 3 years. And I'm not trying to be bullish. I'm trying to actually be pragmatic.
That is very bullish.
Yeah, but why do I say that? Maybe we've delivered these in the toughest of economic times. We've got no tailwinds from a bull market. We've got no tailwinds from lowering interest rates. We've got no tailwinds from anything. These were strategically hard-fought deliberate results. We took action, and those actions delivered in the income statement. And in every single business that I've worked, there are times in your life, and we've had it, where luck plays on your side, luck, if you like, economic tailwinds that you can't predict, you can't control, you can't take credit for. None of that is in these set of results. And they're coming. And why do we think they're coming? Why do we know they're coming? Because inflation is coming under control. Interest rates, therefore, will start to decline, and then an economic activity as a result of reducing interest rates will return. We will get greater growth as a result of reducing interest rates, and those tailwinds will support our business going forward. The other reason why I'm so bullish is that prior to the last 2 years, we'd only ever navigated a business in a bull market. We'd faced no tough times. And as a result of that, we hadn't engineered the business to be more resilient regardless of the economic conditions. We've now done that. We've had a hard handle on costs and a hard look at costs, and we've introduced programs like Thrive and others to give us better revenue sources across the group. And so I'm very confident, more confident I think I've ever been, that the future results, this will be the worst of the result sets in the future. And people can hold me to account. They can reflect on this interview and see if I was right. But fundamentally, I think this is a great set of results, but I do think it'll be the worst set of results that we post over the next 2 to 3 years.
Charles, how big is the team? Just ask.
Yeah, 200 staff globally, working remotely for the most part. So we've got 40 WeWork seats in South Africa. We've got another 40 WeWork seats in Philippines. So 80 out of 280 people that can come into work from time to time. The benefit of our WeWork relationship is that you can work from anywhere in the world and utilize that access point. And so we've got people working everywhere. We've got some staff in Europe, some staff in the UK. We've got staff obviously in South Africa and staff in the Philippines and Malaysia and Singapore. But 200 staff globally. The current staff base has the capacity to support additional growth. So we're not going to go out and hire 20% more people. But there are areas of growth, specific product expertise that we will bring in. We've entered the credit market, we've entered the insurance market, we're entering what else we're entering? We're entering the active ETF space in the next 6 months. And so we'll continue to bring in specialists for those kind of products. But fundamentally, the team has capacity to support more growth. And all the other catalysts that will help us deliver on that growth is AI is changing the game in terms of being able to service large swathes of customers with a much lighter human footprint.
Yeah, sadly, in a way. Well, I suppose not sadly if you're trying to keep a lid on expenses. Charles, just on the Philippines and also Australia, what's been happening there? Part of the money that you raised in the rights offer was ostensibly for the growth abroad. And the Philippines is costing you, I think if I saw, 1.2 million rand a month. When does it start paying off for the company?
Yeah, look, I think part of my strength is my naivety sometimes, in that I don't really think, if I'd thought through, I don't want to use Easy Equities as an example. If I'd thought through all the things that could go wrong when we started Easy Equities, I would never have started it. And so, the Philippines is probably another example of that. If I thought through all the things that could have gone wrong in Philippines that have gone wrong, we would never have started it. But here we find ourselves. We're invested in the Philippines. We've partnered.
How much have you put in, Charles, so far?
We're probably close to 40 million now. So, kind of 12 million a year for the last 3 years, and maybe a little bit more. So I'd say about 40 million. But what have we achieved, and where are we, and what do we think about the future? So firstly, the biggest success is we've partnered the biggest possible partner we could ever partner, not just in South Africa, but probably globally. They give us access to 80 million customers, and they are the case study of mobile wallets in Southeast Asia called GCash. And we've partnered them, and that partnership is secure. And we keep building momentum with that partnership. So as you know, we successfully ran a game, and we're working on other initiatives to work on in the future. And what's the value of that partnership? a lot more than if somebody said to me, you can buy a partnership with Gcash to have the right to be their financial services partner, would you pay 40 million rand? Gladly. Take it and pay for it.
Okay.
The other thing that we've achieved is that we are regulated in the market. So we have an entity and we have staff, and we've built an engineering capability and an operational capability that are now serving the group. So we've got a whole lot of staff there that are building code for us and delivering code at a much lower rate than we were doing it elsewhere, and that are helping us turn on our 24-hour operation. So we run the business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We used to do that out of South Africa with lots of friction. We now do it out of the Philippines and South Africa. So those are two, I think, massive value accretive things that we've done. What have we got wrong is that we naively thought that the regulator would recognize our values and just allow us into the market and pave a way for us, if you like, to enter the market. And we didn't pay enough respect to how difficult that was going to be. And if I had known that point, we might never have gone. But where we find now, but we're there now, and we've got these two huge value, things that we've created in terms of the partnership and the team. And so how long is it going to take for us to be able to deliver services into that country? Our view is, and we're working very hard with Gcash, to, rather than focus on waiting for the regulator to give us permission to do things that are currently not allowed, i.e. US shares, rather to focus on things that are allowed using our current tech stack. So as an example, local stocks. So rather than deliver US stocks, why not deliver local stocks? Or rather than deliver international bonds, let's do local bonds or easy properties or easy crypto. And so we've been working with the Gcash team, which have created a fintech vertical called Rise, to see how they can leverage our technology to replicate what we've done in South Africa with local products in the Philippines market locally. And we're making good strides. I don't want to make any predictions about what that means because I don't know, but we're making good strides at understanding what the timeframes and what the economic sharing of that might be and how we would deliver on that tech stack and those products. But, as a word of caution to shareholders, nothing will be done, I would say, certainly in this year's financials. And if we have a little bit of luck on our side, maybe in next year's financials. And so I think we've got a carrying cost at least of another 18 months before we start to reap the rewards of what we've built in that market. And of course, the shareholders have the right to remove Philippines from our strategy.
Evaluation.
But if you think, my view on it is it's money well spent, and that it gives us a strategy for growth beyond South Africa's growth lanes. And at some point, South Africa does run out of growth for us. We're not there. We've got at least a decade of South African growth, at least. And so importantly for me is that the next leadership team who will come after that decade have something else that they can grow into. And for me, that is the Philippines, that is Southeast Asia. And so whilst our progress has been slow, frustrating, and disappointing for me personally and shareholders, it is 100% the right approach to enable the growth to survive the South African growth story.
Charles, talking about those shareholders, who are the big shareholders, and do they eclipse the retail shareholders you've got? And the other thing I wanted to ask is how many of your users are actually shareholders in Purple?
Yeah, so users are about 100,000, I think. Shareholders between 100 and 150,000. I know that's a wide double, but the last time I looked, it was, I think, about 100, somewhere between those two numbers. It's the most held share on the JSE by retail shareholders on our platform, so which is cool. I think the second is Sasol on our platform. So we've got more retail shareholders than Sasol. Interestingly, just as a data point, we're the only small cap that gets into the top 50 most held shares. So, we've got lots of retail shareholders, which is very cool. Who are the shareholders? I mean, obviously at a Purple level, it's slightly different to an Easy level. So let's just package Easy. Remember that 30% of Easy Equities is owned by Sanlam. So they if they rolled that up to a Purple level, they would have, maybe slightly less than 30%, but they are the biggest single shareholder of Easy Equities. And then at a Purple Group level, it's some of the names that you remember from the past, the Lubner family, Barnes, are still own considerable portion of the company, and are still big supporters of the group. More recently, Base Capital, represented by Paul Rutherford, who's ex Naspers Ventures, his consortium own about 10% of Purple Group, and they've been invested for just over 2 years now and play a very strong and influential role in the strategy of the group. And then I don't think Michael Jordan will mind me saying it because he said it himself, but in his words, we are the only publicly listed company that he holds shares in South Africa, and he's a significant shareholder. And then management together are significant shareholders. Management together own about 10% of the Purple Group. And so between all those names, I would say you get to 60, 70, 80% of the shares, and then retail owns the balance, kind of 20%. So it's still thinly held from an institutional perspective because we're a small cap, but it's still very tightly held by people who've been around a long time or people who have believed very strongly in the company's journey and have stayed the course.
Has that been important for you? Because we're in the process of setting up a startup, and there's quite a lot of discussion on do you have a lot of shareholders, or do you have a couple of anchor shareholders? And the wisdom that we've received is rather have a few solid anchor shareholders. Has that been to your benefit, or has it been? Is it quite? I imagine they don't like to see the share price where it is now, so you probably get a few angry calls from them from time to time. But by and large, would you rather have a few anchor shareholders, and is that better for a company, and especially a startup company?
Juliette, it's a tough question, but I'm going to shoot from the hip because that's all I know. If you're building a retail business, then the more people that are fans of your business, the better you're going to do. And shareholders are the highest form of fan. So there's no loyalty system that can replace that fan badge that you get if you're a shareholder. And so I think fundamentally, if you're building a retail business, a broad shareholder base is exceptionally powerful. It's a flywheel for growth. And something that I think, had Purple Group not being listed, I wonder whether we could have achieved the growth we have in Easy Equities, because people could upgrade loyalty badges for shareholder badges, which was just so much more important. So for a retail business, I think it's super important to have a flywheel for growth through your shareholders and turn them into fans. For a smaller business that doesn't rely on retail, then I would say you want to have a tight-knit group of people that are like-minded, that share your vision, but not necessarily they share your vision, but are robust enough to engage you on your strategy. So how do you achieve your vision? And I guess in the result, the best is a bit of both. A council of strong shareholders who share your vision, but are strong enough to counter your strategy and objectively add value to your strategy, but with a broad enough base and a voice in your shareholders that you can get to the community that you're trying to attract. And I guess we've got that. I'm very lucky that we've got that in Easy Equities. In Purple Group, we have this very strong, the characters well. These are very strong characters who can, who will put their views forward. Sometimes difficult to manage the strength of character at a board level. But it's so important to have those discussions, debates, and to have that friction, and then to walk away knowing that we're all on the same side. We all share this vision. We all want this thing to work. And then to be able to broadcast that through hundreds of thousands of shareholders who then go out and rally the troops. It's very lucky.
Charles, a couple last questions. Is there still a point to Purple Group? Why not? Easy Equities is definitively the biggest part of the company, so why not just be Easy Equities? What is the point of Purple Group still existing?
No point at all. And so the follow-on question: so why not get rid of it? go back, there are just 200 of us, and there's things we need to do and the priorities. So if we believed that collapsing or rebranding the group into Easy Group would stack ahead of the other priorities we got, then we'll do it. But for now, we've just got so much to do that we're not getting to it. So what we have done, though, and you would have seen, we've consolidated all of the brands as Easy. Those that haven't been consolidated are coming. So, GT247, that's going to be rebranded Easy Trader. We rebranded Emperor Asset Management to Easy Asset Management. So we'll do all the subsidiary brands and products first. We're almost there. And then we will change the group to Easy Group, or hopefully a better name than just Easy Group, but Easy something, and consolidate everything under, as you said, this group that has fundamentally become Easy.
Yeah, Easy. Charles, for you, what's the biggest kick that you get out of being you each day?
It's serving the people that need our services the most. And so whilst, I love taking market share from our competitors. I'm a competitive animal. I mean, I can't run a 5K with looking at my watch and seeing if it's a personal best. So I do love the competitive, I love competing. But the thing that really gets me out of bed on any day of the week at any time of the day is serving the people that need us the most. And the joy with which they receive our assistance, our platform, our capability, and the exuberance that they share in being able to do things that they thought they would never be able to do. That's been the magic, and remains kind of the magic for me. I guess as I get slightly older and starting to think about, what the next chapter of my life looks like, I guess the other thing that I get a lot of joy out is that a lot of people have been around me for a long time now. So I think on average, my leadership team have probably got a 15-year tenure, and I get a lot of joy out of seeing what they've become, what they've developed into, and start to see what they could be in terms of the future of the group. And that also, so I've really loved, and I love the mentorship role that I played and continue to play. I hope that it's a role I can always play in some form. But yeah, those two things get me out of bed really early, and I guess it keeps me here. It's never been about building a platform. It's never been about the economics of the income statement. It's been about making a difference that survives my lifetime. And I think the thing that I regret the most is linked to that. I regret that I'm not 20 and that I can't see. I would love to see this group 60 years from now. I would love to be able to just drop in 60 years from now as an 80-year-old and say, oh my God, is this what we expected? What did we predict? All the same questions you've just asked me today. And that's my biggest regret, is that I won't be here to see the real fruits of what we've created, because investing is a long-term game, and it's all about compounding effects. And, I will exit still at the very start of this journey. And 80, 60 years from now, I think we've created the next Sanlam. We've created the next Investec times something. And that's my regret, is I won't be able to see the actual impact that this creates in the country. And I guarantee that one day someone's going to say this. They're going to question, how is it that so many millions of South Africans are wealthy? And someone's going to answer and say it's because Easy Equities started dedicating themselves to it 60 years ago. And that's my biggest regret, is that I won't be here to see that.
I don't know what the stats are on 60-year-old businesses, but it's yeah, it's quite a thing to think of building something for the future. I guess the last question would be, what's totally different now to what you thought about 10 years ago when you started Easy?
I don't think I could ever predict the scale we've got to, and what those scale benefits mean to us as a group. Having never, the biggest business we'd built prior to Easy Equities, I think at its largest size, it was GT247. It might have served 10,000 customers at its biggest. So I'd never prepared to serve 1 million customers. And what are the scale benefits that you have, and advantages it creates for you as a group? So that's the biggest difference now, is that 10 years ago we were engineering things for small audiences on the dreams and hopes that we could one day serve large audiences. The biggest difference is that whilst our dreams and aspirations are millions and millions of customers more, we have this entrenched customer base that equals 1 million customers, 50 billion in assets. And we have got so much more we can do with them. And they are so economically powerful, not just for themselves, but for us as a group. And it gives us huge moats of defense against any competitor. Anybody who wants to come into the market is talking about playing in small groups to small audiences, and they've got to achieve dreams before they're economically viable. Well, we've achieved our dreams, parts of our dreams. And it's now about how do we deliver on a scale business opportunity and take it from 1 to 10 million, 10 to 100 million one day. But it's very different thinking about a business when you've got scale than when you're dreaming about scale. That's the biggest difference.
Yeah. It's a bit like starting your investment journey, isn't it? The future comes upon you quite faster than you think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, it's, just on that, I was reflecting on the amount of millionaires we've created that are under the age of 30. And there's thousands of them. And I just, you just think about that. We've managed to create a whole lot of these thousands of millionaires under the age of 30. And I remember having a lofty aspiration to be a millionaire by the age of 30 when I was, a youngster. Didn't achieve that. And you just think about what that's going to compound into for them. And I guess that's the journey we've been on, is we've had this dream of being something. We now it. And it's taken us a long time to get here. People think this is overnight. It's not. 10 years is not overnight. And prior to that, I did 14 years. This is 24-year journey for me and many members of my team. But we're right at the start of the compounding effects of being true and resilient and diligent to that journey, that initial journey. And so I guess if you like, we're just in our mid-30s, and that compounding effect is starting.
Yeah. Charles, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for the chat this afternoon.
Thanks very much, Giulietta. Appreciate it.